Okay, so we just read the Grimm's brothers' story, The Water of Life. Do you want to give a summary and then we'll talk about it?
Mhm. So there was a kingdom, and its king was very sick. He had a severe illness, and the consensus was that he was likely going to die. So his sons were grieving, uh, and there was like an old man, uh, and they were trying to find answers with, and the old man said that he knows of something called the water of life, and if if they're able to obtain it, he will be cured. So the eldest son said he would go find it, and the king told him that he wouldn't allow it, that he would rather die than have his son go out and get it because it was dangerous. But the son kept insisting, and finally the king relented. So he went, but and his motivation was to obtain the kingdom when his father died. And he felt that if he got the water of life, that it would guarantee that. So he got on his horse and rode, and he came upon a dwarf and, and on the road, and he told the dwarf to move away, shrimp. Uh,
Yeah, the
so
dwarf had asked him where he was going.
mhm, yeah, so that happened, and the dwarf was upset at being mistreated. So he cast or he sent a bad thought to him, or a spell. I'm not sure which, but so and as the eldest kept riding, he kept going and going, but like the road and the forest kept closing in on him to the point he couldn't continue further, and he couldn't even turn back around.
Yeah,
So he was trapped.
yeah, or like in a ravine, and then yeah, he was trapped
Hmm.
between two mountains.
Hmm. So now uh the king was still waiting, and the middle child, or the middle son, approached the king, and he asked his father again to let him go. And of course, the king said no, but the middle son insisted, and he gave his approval for him to go. And this middle son, his motivation was that if his brother obtains the kingdom, he won't have anything. Um, and No, actually, that wasn't the motivation, but more if his brother's dead, now he's in line to get the kingdom. So again, it was more self-interest, with as his motivation for him going. So the middle son, got on his horse, and again he went down the same path and came up upon the dwarf, who asked him where he was going. And again, the middle prince was very rude and called him a little shrimp, and that it had nothing to do with him. So once again, the dwarf was upset, and he also cast a spell on him. Um, and this time, uh, yeah, it was the same punishment. He went into a ravine
Mm.
and couldn't make his way back. So now with the two elder princes trapped, the the last son begged his father to let him go, and the king gave his approval. And this son also set out, and the dwarf asked the youngest prince again where he was going, and the prince said that his father, the king, was dying, and that he needed the water of life. Um, and this prince treated the dwarf decently and didn't call him little shrimp or anything. So the dwarf said that because he was a decent person, that he would tell him where this water of life was located. And he said that it was from at an enchanted castle springing from a fountain, and that he would give him two loaves of bread and a iron wand, um, so that when he reached the enchanted castle, he would strike the gates, two or three times with the wand, and the loaves of bread would serve as a distraction for some two lions that would be there once he crossed the gates. So, yeah, the prince thanked the dwarf and he made his way onto the disenchanted castle. And um, I'm thinking missing a detail. I think he had a sword too.
Oh,
Um,
later on he gets a sword in the castle.
yeah. So he gets into the castle and he strikes the wand three times at the gate, and then he tosses the loaves of bread to the lion, and he's able to make it through. And then when he gets through, he comes upon two princes, and he's able to uh, remove their rings from their finger. And as he keeps going, he finds a sword, I believe.
Yeah, at the same
And
place where the princes are, a sword and a loaf of
yeah,
bread.
yeah. And then as he makes his way through, he comes across a beautiful maiden who's the princess. And when she sees him, she rejoices and tells him that he has saved her, and that if he comes back in a year's time, she will marry him and he will inherit her kingdom. So, uh, so yeah, once that happens, he finds a beautiful bed, and he's so tired that he falls asleep. But the princess had told him that he needs to get the water of life by the time the clock strikes 12. And when he wakes up, it's a quarter to 12. So he hastily wakes up and draws a cup of it from the fountain. And just as that's happening, it's going to be 12. So like he's running so fast and the gate closes and like cuts off a piece of his heel. Um, so yeah, he's out and he got the water. Uh,
Yeah, and he goes homewards
yeah,
again and he again passes the dwarf.
yeah, yeah. And the dwarf tells him that he's inherited a lot now. Yeah, that he's inherited wealth and that he could slain whole armies.
And feed whole peoples.
Hmm. Yeah. And the prince tells him, but still, though, he's missing his brothers. And he asked the dwarf if he could help him find them. And the dwarf said that because they mistreated him, he has imprisoned them. Um, but he tells them where they're located and warns him that they have bad hearts. So the prince finds his brothers and he explains to them everything that happened. The finding the water of life and his promise from the princess to be able to marry her. And as they like go through they cross kingdoms to go back to their father, the king. He he uses his sword and bread loaves to help the kings of those kingdoms slay their enemies and prosper again. And those kings are very grateful. But the brothers are envious and they speak privately and they tell each other that once once the young prince reaches their kingdom, that kingdom will, of course, the king will give him this kingdom for bringing back the water of life. So they plot against him, and when he falls asleep, they sneak into his room and they get the container with the water and they replace it with salt water, and they take the actual water of life for themselves. Um, and then so they take the water, and when they come back to the kingdom, they, the youngest prince, he's overjoyed and he gives his father, the king, the salt water.
Mhm.
But of course, it's salt water, and the king well, he drinks it and he becomes sick. And and at that moment, the brothers come and accuse him of trying to poison their father. And they bring the water of life with them. And when he drinks the water of life, he recovers quickly and he's as healthy as he was in his youth.
Mm.
And now the king believes that his youngest son plotted against him. And I believe I guess he doesn't say explicitly, but he seems to be banished. And the brothers mock him and they tell him uh, that he should have been more observant to their plot, and that now, if he's lucky, he'll be able to live.
Mm.
But he can't tell their father, the king, anything about this.
Yeah, and one of them is gonna get the princess.
Hmm. That as well. Um, so yes, the king is so angry about this uh, that he himself plots to have his son secretly shot. So he sends the hunter to go out with the youngest into the forest, and the hunter seems to have a good heart, and he's so his conscience is so burdened that once they're deep in the forest, the young prince is able to notice that he seems upset, and he asks the hunter what's wrong. The hunter responds that he shouldn't tell him, but he has to, and he tells him that his father sent them both out there for him to be killed. Of course, the prince now fears for his life, and he tells the hunter that you know, this doesn't have to happen, and that they should exchange clothing. So the hunter takes on the prince's clothing, and the prince takes on the hunter's clothing, and the prince just leaves and goes deeper into the forest. And while he's gone and out in the forest,
Oh, a three. Oh, yeah.
but anyways, they exchange clothing, and the prince is deep in the forest, staying away. And in that time, the three kings that the prince helped protect their kingdoms, they sent wagons of gold and precious stones to the kingdom. And the king starts doubting himself. He starts to think that his son helped do good deeds in these kingdoms. And he starts to wonder if he was wrong about trying to have him killed. And that, yeah, it's now weighing on his conscience. So the hunter hears this and he tells the king that he couldn't bring himself to kill his son and that he still lives. So the king then sends out a proclamation that um, his son might return, and that if he does, to just yeah, I guess to just let him make his way through. And in that time, the princess she had a golden road made up to her palace, and she knows that if the prince comes, that he will ride into on that road, and she will know it's the right person. So yes, then after hearing all this, the eldest prince, he decides it's time to make his trip to the princess soon. Um, so he goes, but when happens upon a road, he sees that it's gold, and he doesn't want to step on it because it's too beautiful. So he rides on the right side to reach the palace, and when the attendants are at the gates, they know that he's not the correct prince, so they turn him away. And soon the middle prince, um, he decides to set out for the princess to have her for himself. So he goes and when he goes on the road, the his horse only puts one foot on the road, but then the prince also decides that it's too precious to ride on. So he goes on the left side to reach the palace. And once again, the attendants know that he's not the right prince. And finally, the youngest prince, he feels that his life has kind of fallen apart, but that the only thing that would help him now is just to at least be with the princess. So he rides to the palace, and he um he is so uh motivated and consumed by wanting to see the princess that he doesn't notice the golden road, and he rides straight through it with the horse. And when this happens, the princess knows that he's the right one, and they marry. And it was also like toward just as the year was ending, so it was the original agreement they had that
Hmm.
he would come in a year's time. Uh, so yeah, they marry, and he gets the kingdom, and then his father, the king, hears about it. Um, and so the father invites him back, and the the prince explains everything that happened, including the betrayal by the brothers, um, and how he kept silent. And the king, he wants to punish the brothers, but they're out by sea and they never come back home.
Yeah.